Austin, hey man, how's it
Hey,
going? Yeah, it's good
good.
to finally meet you, man.
Yeah, nice to meet you as
Yeah,
well.
I
Nice
I
talking.
I I enjoyed all of the back and forth we were having before we actually got to do this. So it's really cool to get a chance to know you.
Yeah, likewise,
Yeah.
man. It's been good.
So you were telling me you're in California?
Yep, in Central California.
Nice. Okay. And you're you're into typology. You've been into it for a while, I guess.
Yeah, so it was started, I think, back in junior college. I took MBTI. It was like in a class that I was in.
There's a class called MBTI.
What's that?
There's a class
Oh,
called
it was like 16personalitytypes.com kind of thing.
a college class?
No, the college class is
No.
called something else. It was like career development or something.
Oh,
And in
okay,
the
I got you.
yeah, that was the first time I took like a personality test. And so I typed as I think it was INTJ like the first time, and then I was like, okay, that's interesting. But there's some things like around organization and stuff that didn't sound quite right in the type description. And so I end up taking the test again a couple times, and I got like INTP. I kept on getting INTP over and over and over again. And for like 8 years, I thought I was an INTP, right?
Really?
Until Shannon typed me, and then I'm like, what? I'm an INTJ? And
So there
it
was
just,
right the first time.
yeah, like
That's
but
crazy.
there was things about that description that didn't fit me because I'm that like glass lizard INTJ. Well, I
Oh,
probably should have told you that because you still don't fully know my type, but
yeah. I was trying to avoid knowing your type, but we'll get we'll get into it. And we discussed
yeah.
a little bit that I was getting a lot of double feminine from you, and you were like, "Yeah, totally." Like, you ran into problems from it, but that's interesting. So then your sensory is SE,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's a feminine sensory, and
Yeah,
it's your
it's
demon.
yeah, it no, it's wild. It's
Yeah.
wild. Like like I can't fully explain it, but I feel like I'm so disconnected from time. And this thing that's like double activated in the back, it's always like shooting out, I feel like, new things for me to kind of take in. So while like what's really fascinating about me and my brain and whatever is that I will start off kind of with some things that I know. Like if I start blasting, I'm like constantly in the extroverted world, right? So I'm blasting, I'm starting at one point, and then I'm kind of like working my way through. And then like I'll start having this kind of flow of energy, maybe it's like play or whatever, that's kind of like I want to get to the center of things, right? So I'll work off of what's known and I'll like brainstorm with myself in order to get to kind of unknown places.
So
And
you're
then I'll
using your double deciders in that way. You're like you think you're explaining that you're using your double deciders to be able to work your way through it.
yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit, but
You're
it's
finding the
really
harmony between your two deciders.
it's so hard to fully explain it
Right.
because I feel like it's sort of an abstraction. It's a separation of sorts, and I'm kind of like almost having this unconscious flow of thought that's kind of going through, and then it's like almost like these Freudian like slips. Maybe that's not the best word to use, but it's like free association that I'm creating for myself. And because I my energy flows externally, then it allows me to kind of find where that FI is. And so I'll find like something about myself through my talking a lot of times where I didn't
Okay.
know about myself before.
So
So
you're a lead blast.
yeah, totally.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I, I, I can go quite a ways and keep on going, but what's fascinating is that because I know Eric Dorr, like I saw that he in the OP group, he talked about how there's like flow, right? There's flow and stress with the functions. And I also see that with the animals too, that if I'm kind of like going off and say blasting a lot, then I feel like there's a certain flow in a sense of my play coming in where it feels very like kind of disruptive. Like there's new things kind of coming in. So I'm like kind of trying to reach out and like pull myself forward and sort of have this like new information, and then like I keep on trying to go further and further and further and further down that tunnel.
So
And then
you're describing you go from blast to play and then to sleep, and you don't have sorry, and then to consume, and you're missing sleep,
yeah, totally,
and
totally.
you see that.
Well, for the first like week or two, I was just like, no, I'm an INTP, guys. Like, you got, like when David Shan typed me. But then I was like, yeah, no, I can actually really see that where it's because of not necessarily what I'm doing. Like, I could do sleep all day long, but it's more or less like what really truly energizes me, what really truly gets me in that like really a deep flow state. It's like a different feeling of sorts. Does that kind of make sense?
It's all very N. So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
honest to God, that's one of the toughest things for me is because I kind of disrespect the words in a sense because I get like creative and I mesh and move words together. I think that may be the demon double activate SD feminine or whatever. And like I have this disruption energy where it's very like you know how they talk about there's the kinesthetic where it's kind of like I guess like pushy and then tester is kind of like more inward like it's kind of moving
right.
I guess.
You're more
And
tester.
I'm super tester. I think
Right.
back like when I played soccer as a kid, I was I'm not sure if this is tester like, but I would be playing, say, defense. Defense was like my preferred position. And so I would always have like the attacker come at me, and I would always wait for that perfect moment to poke. And then I'd
Right.
poke and steal the ball away, and then I'd kick it away.
Right.
And it also, like in playing
You
card
wouldn't jump
games and
out and threaten. You wouldn't like posture against him or anything.
no, I would
Oh.
flow with him. I would move backwards, wait for him to make all his funny moves and stuff. And then I would just poke at the ball to try to steal it. And I
Right.
was typically better than most people on the team because I would let them do their dance and I would
Right.
just kick it away. And I noticed this also when I play games, when I play video games, when I play card games, is like I'm always waiting for that counter, and I'm trying to build a system around that counter to kind of like
Right.
poke away at the person over and over and over and over
So yeah,
until
that's
I
very IJ. That's very IJ. That like you're trying to plan the perfect move. You're trying to like yeah, right.
totally.
But
But
like
it's
that
more
that sounds
of
a little
like
bit sleep too, because like you need to plan. You need to the waiting to expend energy, expending energy in the right spot. Yeah, that's interesting.
well, but there's a lot of kind of extroverted energy coming my way, right?
Right.
Sleep is more or less, I think, like you are sort of energizing yourself and sort of working that and then doing it, right? Without the external. But for me, I get energized when there's all this external stuff coming at me, and then I look to respond and then build a system and trying to make sure that works best.
Right.
Um,
Do
but
you
yeah,
ever
I've
do you ever
had,
go into sleep? Because you describe sleep in a way that it's not the way I sleep. But
well, what do you mean?
no, because you describe sleep in a way that okay. Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Um, so your lead NI. Um, what's the depth that you go to usually with your NI? How deep can you get?
um, so one of the really fascinating things is that with my NI, the hard part is, and I'm kind of like see that's what happens is I side tangent and then I kind of try to go back and try
Yeah,
to
yeah,
pick
that's
up.
fine. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're
So
trying to answer the question like indirectly, like gets
yes,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
always, and then
yeah.
I lose people all the time because they're looking straight at it. And I'm like going
Get
at a
to the
different.
point, dude. Get to the point.
I know that's the hardest thing for me. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
I
yeah,
treat teachers all over the place. Is because I work around
yeah,
things
yeah, yeah, yeah,
all.
yeah.
I orbit around it.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
But with the NI, I feel like you can't really fully explain kind of NI without all the other functions kind of simultaneously, kind of like them interacting. But it's more or less like a scenario, right? Where I have this it's sort of like the universe is in front of me, and I'm building out sort of frames, and I'm seeing how the different things interact with each other. And because I'm visual modality, I will literally be waking up in the morning sometimes and I'll be working through a scenario like maybe with typology and OP, and I'm trying to make sense of, okay, what would the functions look like in a simulation? And I try to slow things down into like frame by frame moment in a really, really slow way. And I throw in like different frames and seeing like what will make sense as far as like a logical flow.
Like
And then
reverse, you go
observing it.
back, forwards, see like all the
Oh,
branching paths.
Yeah, it's completely like I try this, I throw this in the mix, and then I simulate it. Does it work? No. I throw this in the mix, I simulate it. Does it work? No. And
Right.
I will use and leverage a lot of shapes and patterns in order to see if that all makes sense.
Right.
And so I'm kind of seeing this out, I'm visualizing, I'm playing it out, and then I throw in more things. And
All right. So then you get to a conclusion. How frustrating is it for you when it doesn't work?
no, no, I don't. I have to reach a conclusion. If I don't reach a conclusion that feels really, really, really flowy,
Right.
then I will continue to work on that thing like relentlessly
Right.
for just like days. I will go over the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over until it starts to make full on sense. And then if I don't have enough resources, if things aren't fitting, I will try to like blast it out in a sense. Maybe try to like teach it or put it out there to the tribe and be like, hey, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And but the
Right.
problem is a lot of times I find myself, because I don't have a whole lot of people to like
It, you're,
talk.
it sounds like you're using the tribe to get your sensory.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
because I don't have, it's not, see, it's a simulated sensory in a sense.
Right.
It's a simulated
Yeah.
data
Yeah.
point. So it's like everything is filtering through the NI lens, quote unquote, right? We have like the SI lens, and we have like this NI simulation, NE simulation. NI is kind of like the condensing universe, right? You're looking to kind of condense things down.
Yeah.
And then
I feel that
the
too.
NI is
Yeah.
kind of like the expansive, expanding universe, and it kind of it broadens out. And
Right.
so I'm trying to create like a storyline of sorts between data points and creating like a conceptual framework which allows me to triangulate and see it as a whole. And then it's like, okay, it makes sense as a system, as
Right.
an framework.
Yeah. I
Does that,
really like that too. I identify with that because I think once you have the concept and then you go into reality, you can apply it in any way that isn't required. Like reality will require you to apply those concepts that you have, and you're like, I could do this. My concept's good. And then like when it fails, when the concept fails, you're like, I got to go back to the drawing board. Something's wrong. Yeah.
yeah, it's oh yeah, no, I
And so
relate.
yeah, that was the original question. Like, how upset do you get when one of your plans just doesn't pan out, where you're so sure that it's real, and then
Well, but the thing is that a lot of these things are theoretical kind of frameworks,
right,
and I'm not sure. Me being like that double activated demon se feminine, I feel like it's a lot more imaginative potentially, rather than it's more idealistic rather than realistic. I feel like
okay,
I disrespect the actual raw like sensory experiences. I have like there's like a
ah.
hole in between the frames and stuff, and like I'm kind of like manipulating and shifting things a lot.
So you're not actually even focused on reality itself. You're just focused on theoretical ideas that have no correlation with reality more.
No, I'm looking to obviously like eventually get it to where it works in objective reality, but
Okay.
it's more or less like I'm trying to make sense of things through this theoretical framework because I don't have literally models and things in actual reality to use in order to help make sense of everything. I'm literally creating things from scratch, like from triangles and circles.
Right.
And so
But can't you use some of your past concepts that you've developed in order to see how they fit together and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's in essence, what's really interesting here is that there's like parallel storylines that go on, and I'll kind of have both kind of simulations or both storylines running on like simultaneously. And for some reason or another, there's a conceptual framework between those two things, and it'll help me see where the discrepancies are between those two stories, right? And that's
Right.
actually what I do as a tester. I think I don't even know if I said that right, but I will like run or when someone else is like feeding me information, like say their psyche or whatever else, I will kind of like have that be coming in and then me having my frame and then seeing where the parallel, like how parallel it is and see the small discrepancies in the information that's coming in where they're missing, right? What things are they missing, where it is. And I'm kind of like trying to mine for all the gold nuggets. Like where's the small little discrepancies that actually have a great implication of being much larger than what it is because I have like the conceptual frameworks figured out around these things.
Right.
So it's
So
really, really abstract, but
yeah, no, yeah, it is abstract. I kind of see where you're going with it. I don't want to expand on it too more at the moment, but I think I'm gonna like I'm probably gonna rewatch it and try to delve into it because it sounds like an interesting concept to try and think about as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go for it myself.
so
So Yeah. Okay. So you're obviously using a lot of TE when you're doing this, because you are talking about objective reality. You are talking about thinking in objective reality. Like your NI isn't like divorced, because like I asked you the question. So how does your TE help you figure out your NI? How does it?
Uh, how does my T help me figure out then? Well, overall, I would say that my TE acting like with an animal, I'm more or less focused on sharing truth with the tribe, right? And I'm trying to make sure that there's a consensus of understanding amongst like tribe members. Like that's
Um,
something really conscious and trying to be very attentive
so
of.
it's important to you that everyone agrees about things,
Yeah, yeah, not just based on like what's the tribe's sort of values, what is it that we
right?
like?
No, yeah,
No,
agrees on truth.
yeah, and
Uh,
seeing that be a common thing, and then I try to pay very close attention to where the discrepancies are. So like when you're doing all these interviews, I notice that, hey, well, I have my frame of thought and I see discrepancies a little bit of what other people are sharing, what other people are saying, and I
right.
feel like mine aren't really foundationally sound either. So
Uh-huh.
I'm really trying to look at it in a very analytical way, what are the smallest things that are missing, and how can I create a conceptual framework that works off of a foundation in which other people can build off of.
That is so foreign to me, man. That is so
Oh,
foreign, because like for me it's just like so obvious that everyone is going to understand and experience their functions in their own way. Like your NI is just going to be a completely different concept of NI than my NI. You know what I mean? That's interesting. Yeah. I don't think
you
we need to agree on what NI is. I think maybe if you go deep enough, we all have the same NI. But like once you come out a little bit, it starts getting expressed in different ways. Does that make sense?
hmm mm-hmm. Um hmm. But I think that the way that you would maybe use your NI, right? Your NITI. Well, I mean your
I'm
demon.
lead TI. I have NI and SE. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that you would use it more or less for truth for yourself, right? And your own truth. And I would use N as a tool to eventually get T out and making sure that I'm blasting the correct T and everyone else has the same T as well.
It feels like we're not even having the same conversation. It's
Really?
really funny. Yeah. It feels like you're saying something that is completely true for you, and that I'm just not getting it, because it like we're talking on two different wavelengths. It's really
Well, yeah,
really
that's why
interesting.
I was trying to explain maybe how your brain works around things and trying to make sense of
Right.
things. I missed the point. I
No,
honestly,
no.
I have a very hard time trying to understand like other people exactly kind of how it works with the functions and stuff, and I could just
I'm
speak.
here trying to understand you. Like this that's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Okay, so like then your FI is your values. Do you see that? Are you is you have personal values? You have personal likes and dislikes that are important to you?
Um, yeah, like, and I find that when I get in a really heated argument, and it was a really really great point when Shannon, I believe, first mentioned that she talked about you kind of argue from where you're masculine on. So I will tend
Oh,
to
yeah, that's
bring
your
out,
masculine.
yeah, like my secret hidden key, like the thing in the background, like I pull in is values
You have
at the
two
end.
masculine demons, man. Oh no, sorry, you don't. Your N is masculine. Yeah.
Mhm,
Sorry,
mhm.
that was but yeah,
No, no,
so
that's fine. And then but I'll typically really be working off of truth, right? I'm like, okay, here's the frameworks, here's the ideas, let me work off of these things. I could be flexible on them if you challenge them and whatnot. I can also be flexible on my feeling and intuition, but that's not as natural. It creates a little more stress. It's kind of like the stress and flow thing. Like with my T, it's relatively flexible. Like, okay, I missed that. Okay, whatever, whatever. That's why when David Shanner say sharing things in their class, whether like, okay, this is spring 2018, whatever, this is our framework, these are our ideas. And I feel like the same way. Like if I'm, releasing content on a YouTube channel and I have like theory and stuff, I'm like, okay, this is beta version. I'm putting it
right.
out there. And then I'm like, okay, let me get to alpha version later.
Right.
Um,
You want to get that agreement. You're like, this isn't going to have the agreement. I want to get to an agreement. I want to get to truth. And I can't do that
yeah,
on my own. We have to do that objectively.
Very, yeah, yeah. That's a really, really good way to put it. As far
Right.
as I believe that it's a thing that is sort of exercised between people, because in a sense, the way that my brain is wired is like I can't fully kind of get to that point myself. I mean, I can, but it's a lot harder. It requires a lot more energy and stress. But when I'm in flow, I'm doing it with other people that are like-minded that can keep up with all these different things. But when it comes to NI and FI, like it creates more stress when those things are challenged. Because if I
When your
say that,
truth is challenged or when your values are challenged? I just want to
yeah,
get specific on what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah, no, no, I mean, just,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. So with like FI, like, because I feel like they're so rooted on really core things like love, like compassion, like, empathy, like these different kind of core things. um I feel like you have to have really, really, really good reasons in order for me to kind of move on those things. It's just not,
Oh,
like,
I see.
it,
You're talking about
yeah,
like logic
it,
versus emotion here.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
and
and
and if
if
I'm
logic,
really,
yeah, okay, sorry, go ahead. I'll let
no,
you.
no, that's okay. And then like with the NI, like if you were to say challenge some of my like frameworks I'm creating with like my drawings and stuff for OP and whatnot, I feel like it's my responsibility to basically advance that NI sort of system. That it's not really like your responsibility to like feed into my system and make it better. It's my responsibility to do that. You could tell me there's things a little like off and stuff, but I don't want you to add to that. And I remember talking with my friend Bar. We're basically the same type, but she's blast leaf, I'm blast play. And I could see that like we had that a little bit where, I just felt like I was kind of doing that to her, and I could see almost myself in her where it's like, no, I'm gonna figure out my own kind of thing, where I don't really want help around this like kind of conceptual thing. And so it's interesting. It's just the introversion, extroversion. It's like where you moving, where you're shoving, all this stuff. Does that kind of make sense?
I'm trying to make it make sense.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I need to work on just I need to blast more so I could practice. I'm usually on my own, so I don't get to.
Right. No, no, I can tell that these concepts are pretty well developed. Like you understand them like really well. And
Yeah,
I really want to know what they are, but I don't even like even have how do I
like
put
the
it?
building blocks to get there.
Yeah, like I don't have the key to open your door. Like you have like this room full of interesting things that you're showing me and I don't even know how to get in it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually it's a common thing. It's more
Yeah.
of like I need to work on my words and stringing them together. Yeah,
Yeah.
but do you have any other questions around that or?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely do. So yeah, so what I'm noticing also is that like a lot of a lot of your language is different than the language of someone who oh man. Okay, so in mathematics there's a concept of a singularity. A singularity is a point where you can't mathematically examine it because all of your values go to infinity or go to just get all screwed up. So the way you examine the point is you have to go around the point mathematically, make a closed loop, and look at the result of what happens in that closed loop to get what's going on inside. You know what I'm saying? And so it feels like yeah,
I feel like that explains my brain where it's
yeah.
like it
So
goes
yeah, yeah. So it feels like there's a singularity there. There's something like that's going to infinity, and that like we need to we in order for you to explain it, you need to do that. You need to go around it mathematically. Yeah, you should look it up. It's Cauchy-Riemann. It's an interesting mathematics. Yeah. Anyways,
yeah, yeah. No, show me it afterwards and I'll look.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about your SE demon. How does it hit you? Like what do you freak out about?
I feel like I freak out about the FI as well as the SE
Right.
because the SE is double activated, and I'll have like the swings where I kind of like look for that try validation piece, and when it's not there, then I feel like there's something missing within me, and I'm not doing enough. I'm just so self-sacrificing. It's insane.
Yeah, you feel that way?
What's that?
You feel that way that you're self-sacrificing? Wow.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because all the functions, all these things, and here I go like on a different tangent, right? Where like I feel like you either are self-sacrificing or you're self-expressing, right?
Right.
And if you can be self-sacrificing, if you have like sort of this like meeting goal in the future where you're able to sacrifice and get to that place, and
Right.
then ultimately we want to be expressing, extending, and releasing ourselves into kind of the outer world, and that's where you have like the flow, right? With the function flow,
Right.
with animal flow, with all these things that allow you to do that.
Yeah, you
Like,
are. I guess you are like you are the most extroverted that you can be as an IJ, right? With your
no,
animals. With your
well,
animals.
actually, maybe. I know that play blast is it would be like more extroverted.
Right, and then consume. Sleep is less extroverted, so consume is more extroverted than sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
mean,
you
like,
you will be expending energy for the tribe.
yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, see, here's the deal. I think with the animals and whatnot. Maybe I already shared this a little bit earlier, but I feel like it's more of just like a flow, right? Like with blast, it's more of like an elongated sort of like, hey, like this is what it is on this track. Play
Right.
is more back and forth. It's a cycle. It's like an extroverted cycle. Sleep is like an introverted cycle in a
Yeah.
sense. Zoom is like more elongated inward energy, right? So when I kind of see, say, like Jeff Bezos, right, when he's in a communication with someone else, I noticed that he seems to not be able to pivot very well when he's in a conversation with someone else because they're on the one-way track. And then he, like, as far as pivoting with that extroverted energy, it seems like it's more disruptive in a sense. You kind of
Hmm.
get where I'm saying, and then like because play is like the back and forth talking, you know, like extrovertedly, and then sleep is like the introverted talking back and forth. It's like you're playing pong. It's like bing, 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 and then it's like, you know, something like that. Does that kind of make sense? I think I took it all. I think I hijacked this, so maybe we could go back to
No, no,
what you
it's
said.
all good, man. This is exactly what I want to get to. This kind of thing. That's awesome. So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, I just go off like tips on a tangent, and then
yeah,
like you
yeah.
ask.
No, dude, man, this is blast first. That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
impressed that yeah, you can do that. That's cool. So do you get interrupted a lot as having the double feminine? Like, do you feel like people are pushy against you, or they're
Well, for me, it's more or less like I'm accepting of it. I feel like I like to kind of listen, right? I like to take in. I like to take in. I like to
right,
like jab a little bit and push things
right?
out a little bit, and then extend it out sometimes with play. But it's very yeah, it's very flexible. It's very soft. It's very
Hmm.
movable. It's all these things. It's more of a circle rather than a triangle.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I don't know if that helps it, but um,
So your ST play region, your ST play region, it's that's the double feminine region, right? So do you
ST play.
yeah. So do you feel like that
Mhm.
you're and that's interesting too because you're you seem like you're more feminine than a lot on the spectrum, and I think that's because that like S and T are the masculine functions, and then they've been curved to be feminine, which is really interesting.
That's a good observation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really intuition and feeling. Obviously, you know, is more of like on the time plane, and then on the space plane is like, you know, sensing and thinking, where you're building out frameworks. And then it's like quantum physics, right? You have like
Okay.
these frameworks, right, with molecules and stuff, and then you have the waves that are flowing through with feeling. And definitely that being like movable and shifting and stuff, it really, yeah.
Mhm.
I don't have a good answer on that, but that's a good observation.
Okay, so your play region is feminine. It's ST. What's that? Describe this ST feminine. What like that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Do you have something on it? Have you thought about it?
um, well, it's just what I always like to say. This is a really interesting thing. I am typically stressed when I have to like say read books or go through like kind of long lectures and stuff to get information, new
Right.
information. I'm kind of in a stressed out state because I'm like trying to speed through videos like 2 to 3x speed, you know, trying to consume as quickly as I can. I'll try to read a book all at one sitting to try to like just immerse myself in it as quickly as possible. But I've always said that the way that I like to take in new information is through conversation. It's
Play.
through like
Through play.
asking targeted questions to poke at different angles and different points
Hmm.
and find out that information, because I have more control of kind of the information flow in that person. And I can kind of like, I like the give and take. I like the energy coming in and going out. Consume is just it's too monotonous. It's too kind of slow for me. Does that kind of make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Blast is information direction. Like blast is information coming out. Consume is information going in, and then you have the two sides where they're looping. The information is staying out, and then information is staying in.
But I think that like with play, it's a mixture of both in a
Yeah,
sense. I think that it's like you're kind of you're trying to grab out that information, but you're also kind of pushing some information out, and then you're kind of taking that. It's like in short bursts, and then sleep is kind of in short bursts as
yeah.
well, where it's
Maybe
like
it's
it
like yeah, it's
helps
maybe it's
yourself.
like the interaction of extroverted information. It's like putting it out there and having it interact. Yeah, I'm trying to speak in your terms here. This is
You
going to be
that's
like a really end video.
that's spot on, man.
Yeah.
Like I totally in conversations and stuff, it spikes me, and I just like I start like taking things in and manipulating things in a really interesting way. But but a lot of my time, like because I'm on my own and sort of taking in information, like watching videos and reading books, it's just so slow. It's like some of these things I could just ask a question wherever I have a question, and then easily and quickly get that information in, and then move on to the next thing. So
Right.
I could just quickly, and that's why like talking with an expert or someone who's really knowledgeable in their field. I mean, that's the best way to get information if
Well,
you
because
know.
you want specific information. You want specific targeted information. You don't want like a broad spectrum of information and then abstract this specific afterwards.
Yes,
Yes.
totally,
Yes.
totally.
Right.
Like I want very specific because I have a puzzle. I'm missing puzzle pieces.
Yes. That's exactly how I feel. Yeah.
What's that?
That's exactly how I feel when I'm trying to figure something out. Is I'm missing pieces and I have to go out and consume to get those pieces. I have to figure out how I get those missing pieces. And
And you typically would maybe like to do it through conversation, right? Potentially.
well, a lot of the time, we're not supposed to be talking about me, but I'll just mention it. A lot of the time, what I do is I try to render the piece myself and say maybe that's what the piece is, and then I'll be able to go out and see, is that the piece? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
because going out and trying to find the piece when you don't even know what you're looking for, like you're missing something. It's like it's a negative space, and you're trying to fill that negative space with something positive outside, but you don't know what it should look like. You know what I mean? I'll do the analogy of the puzzle. So like if you know you're missing a piece, you need to look at like the shape around the piece to know what your piece is going to look like first. And then you can go out and get that piece. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm following. I understand.
Yeah. Is it the same way for you when you're trying to consume? Or there's a contrast?
I don't know. I'm not
Okay.
entirely sure. I do have to say though that I for some reason or another, if I listen to a lecture like really long, like podcast or something, I run my imagination and simulation be like parallel to that thing, and I'll try to be like extracting information from what is kind of saying. I work with the flow of that energy to kind of move into this other like system and framework that I'm working on, and like I'm extracting it that way, and then it kind of fills this one up.
Wow. I wish I could understand what you just said. It sounds interesting. I
Yeah,
said I
I
wish.
never hurt anyone, but it's just how my brain kind of works. It works imagination. It works in parallel with external information that's kind of flowing against my other
Right.
system.
What about your distrust of your SE? What about your conspiracy theories and things like that? Does that light you up?
That's a good question. Um, I don't think that I have like conspiracy theories. Um, I
Intense
mean,
paranoid fears?
you know what kind of freaks me out? I'll tell you what kind of freaks me out is that I typically will have this imagination going on, this framework in my mind where I'm like, okay, this is how reality works in my mind.
Right. Yeah.
And like, yeah. And then when I have like a technical thing on the computer, or when I have like something else that doesn't fit that mold of what I created in my mind,
Right.
then I freak out. And it's because it's not playing by my rules. It's playing
Yeah.
by like another set of rules, which is reality. And I'm like, God, like, it.
You know
I
what's
wish I
really
had
funny?
examples, but
You know what's really
no,
funny? I asked you to answer that exact question like right at the beginning, and now I'm getting the answer. It's pretty funny.
oh really?
I had to ask it in the right way for you. Yeah.
I'm
Man,
sorry.
no, I'm fascinated. This is very interesting. We got to talk
It,
again because yeah, there's definitely something that I'm missing from the world. If I and
yeah,
I think
I don't think it's
yeah,
just that you're missing. I think I'm missing it too, where I'm not like fully there. I'm kind of, it takes a little while to kind of work its way through, and it's also being interviewed and stuff. I don't get interviewed very often, so things feel really choppy and they don't feel very like flowy for me. So
it's all
it's
good, man. Yeah. So okay, so
yeah.
your SF region, your consume region, like SF is foreign to you as an NT. It's like the most foreign place, but it's your consume. So maybe does that have something to do? Like, have you tried to examine your SF consume a little bit in that context?
Have I tried to examine my SF consume in what context?
In
What
the
do you mean?
context that it's SF, in the context that it's feeling and sensory.
Hmm. See, honestly, I kind of have a hard time with the animals and kind of making sense of that
Right.
because, like, for example, well, just for example, like when I'm saying that I'm blasting, right? When I'm blasting and when I'm fully letting it out, it seems like that unveils a lot of times like the hidden F at the end of the tunnel, right? Like my core, like this is who I am kind of thing. But if you look
Right.
at blast, my blast is NITE.
Right.
So, but it helps me as a tool to kind of feel out that F. So, but it's
Hmm.
not. So it's like there's kind of there's like maybe shadow parts of it, and there's like more things that are kind of in the light that's going on as like a mechanism and a flow and a processing system. Does that kind of make sense? So
Yeah. I'm just like, this is fascinating for me that we're just speaking a completely different language. Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah, sure.
no, like this is great. Thank you, man. Okay, so you're are you aware of your F? Like, are you aware of it, of how it influences you, of how yeah?
Um, well, the thing is that I always kind of lead with T, and oftentimes I'll use T to get to what I'm actually like. I just literally explained is that I'll throw out a whole bunch of truth, and at the end of that truth, for some reason or another, like there's where my F is. So I'll use like the N to get to these things. I'll use the T to get to the things that are further into my shadow. Does that kind of make sense?
I'm gonna keep, every time you ask that question, I'm gonna say the same answer. This is awesome. Wow. All right.
I I don't know how to answer it otherwise. Like
Austin,
yes,
I think what we need to do is we need to have like a really deep conversation to try to understand
yeah, I
where
think so.
each other is coming from, because we need some common ground when we're talking. Like we need something to grasp to. You know what I mean?
No, I completely agree. I mean, I'm very conceptual, and it's not helping a whole heck. But
No, this is great. Like, don't apologize. This is amazing. I'm really happy with this interview, especially because like I know that there's going to be tons of comments of people are like, I totally understood him. What's wrong with you? You know what I mean?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, for
It's
sure, for sure. And then the other thing is, I'm sure that like if I go over it myself and I'll try to understand what you're trying to say, and because it's so conceptual, I'm gonna have to like unpack it to repack it. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
yeah,
And honest to God, like if I were to, so what it comes down to is when I'm extremely clear with things,
right,
I will tend to be more like, okay, here's kind of what it is, right? Here's the
right.
centerpiece. But because I'm not clear around all this stuff, I'm kind of trying to expend this different energy to kind of be a journey or a self-discovery thing where I'm trying to get to where that thing is, but I'll be doing it in a blast play state. Does that make sense?
Not yet. It will.
I have to say it. There's just
This is great, man. I'm having a blast. We got to do this again. I got to get someone to translate. I got to get a translator next time.
I know. I know.
This
It's horrible. No, dude, you're not the only one. I mean,
yeah,
seriously, I've talked to so many people with my past business partner. I'd be talking through all these things, and he'd act like he understands what I'm saying, but then he really doesn't, and then we have an argument for like an hour about it.
because you
And
assumed he understood.
like, you ask questions, and luckily, you're asking questions and stuff. You're making it known, so that's good. So yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Austin, I really wanted a lot of questions answered, and I don't know if I got them yet. So I'll go
Yeah,
over
we'll have
I'll go over the interview like a few times to see if I actually got the answers. But I will have follow-up questions for sure, man.
yeah, no, it sounds good.
Awesome. It
Sounds
was really amazing talking to you. Thank you so
yeah,
much for coming out. Yeah.
likewise. Thank you so much.